Hello, my name is HQ of HQ Reacts. Welcome to my channel. Please do me a favor. Hit the like button, share the stream, and click the notification button for new content. Thank
Hello. I be on some other ears sometimes. I forget sometimes that I just have to pull this stuff together. Hello, everybody. Early in the afternoon, I just felt like coming on here doing this series, this little update informational about these goofy people that be hitting the airwaves. It just be weird stuff. It don't necessarily have to be people who get unalived. It be people who just be doing weird stuff for no reason. Right? And then get arrested just in trouble for no reason. But we're going to start with this first one. The person that was going to meet some young people. We're going to start with that one.
Teams in Tucson, Arizona swarmed a suspect that they say had driven 2 hours to allegedly meet up with a teen girl for sex. But that teen turned out to be an undercover officer, and the man was taken into custody on sex crime charges. We are getting a closer look at the takedown from body-worn camera video, and we are going to be speaking with a sheriff and predator hunter, Chris Swanson, about the details of this case, and I will tell you, it will make your skin crawl. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber.
How does the detriment not overwhelm what you want to do? I don't understand.
Taylor Chrisman is in a lot of trouble out in Arizona. He is facing felony charges of attempted sexual conduct with a minor and aggravated luring of a minor for sexual exploitation. This is according to the Pima County court records. Now, we got our hands on the incident report from April 3rd, 2025, when Chrisman was arrested, as well as body cam video of his arrest. We got to talk about it, but I will tell you, this video came to us blurred by Tucson police, but you can still see and you can still hear what's going on.
Police, stop or else in the dog. Get down. Get on the ground, yeah. On the ground. Put your hands out.
So, how do we get here? Okay, talk about it. I want to bring in friend of the show, always happy to see him, Sheriff Chris Swanson from the Genesee County. So good to see you, Chris.
Thank you.
Now, just give everybody a 360 here, because where are you right now? Let everybody, you have the best views arguably, of any guest and the variety of views. Look where you are right now.
I tell you, Jesse, my work carries me all over the country. And right now I am standing in front of the Lincoln Memorial, a man who stood for emancipation and slavery that would need to be broken, those chains. And then down here, the Washington Monument, which is a symbol of this country and how free we are. So that's why these cases are so important, to break those chains of slavery, which we call human trafficking.
I love it. So yeah, we got you.
He looked like he can kick ass and take names. I like manly men.
Once on a boat, we got you once in London. Now we got you in DC. Next time we see you, you might be in a Vegas casino floor. I don't know, but we'll see what happens. But okay, now to get serious about this. Okay, this is a really harrowing takedown, and I'm always curious. One of the things that when we talk about it is an arrest like that. What goes into an arrest like that? What is the feeling like? What are you most concerned about? Because that is a really, really stressful moment.
Well, what I find interesting is the dynamic style of arrest. You heard a flashbang. You saw that they were in their tack gear. You saw that they came from multiple angles. That's what's different. This wasn't just a, hey, get out of your car, we want to talk to you. They knew something about this guy's past. They anticipated perhaps something going sideways. That's why they shot that flashbang to kind of disorient him and then attack and make sure that he was down on the ground. Loud verbal command.
They got full headgear. They got full body armor, headgear, everything. What was this dude's past that would make them put all of that on just so you could take this guy down? What the hell kind of pass do he got that they would do that?
And so this was all done very, very well. There's a raid plan. That's why they knew something. This wasn't going to be just your normal arrest.
So let's talk about this case, and we will get to that arrest as well, and we have more videos. So according to a partially redacted police report, Mr. Chrisman actually first started communicating with an undercover officer. Yeah, back in September of last year, that undercover officer, or UC, had an account on an unknown app where a user named Justin liked one of her posts and sent a message. The police report reads, "Once the suspect and I began texting, I immediately advised I was 14 years old, and the conversation soon stopped. On March 19th, 2025.
Yeah, but what amazes me is that they find out how old these people are, and they still get involved, even though they understand what's going on by now. Once somebody tell you their age, once you know the age, then you know what time it is. You know you had the potential to get arrested. But they do it anyway. For what? When you can get all the things that you want from that particular youngster from an adult woman. Why would you need to do that?
I received a text message from suspect asking, redacted, then stated, never mind, because he remembered her age. I again reminded that I was 14. But again, according to this report, instead of ending the conversation, the user known as Justin continued messaging. Now, Chris, how common is that? You see this situation where...
I think it's very common. I think the obsession for it, the obsession to do it, overrides the logic. It overrides it. And the dare or the excitement of doing something illegal overrides their whole mental program.
They're alerted to the age on purpose by the undercover officer, and yet the conversation continues.
And that's why you bring up a great point. There's so many different times that this person could have just stopped communicating. They realize, all right, this person's 14 years old, underage. I need to stop. He re-upped the conversation. And then he kept it going for weeks and weeks until he was arrested. That shows premeditation. That shows that the predator-prey relationship is real.
Is there a specific way to conduct this communication, to conduct this conversation?
And I believe sometimes this shit happens, very gradually. It happens more than what we think. Because I believe these men who prey on these young girls, they do it by flattering the girl. That girl don't seem. How you think some of these young girls be pregnant? Some of these young girls be having babies at 13 and 14 years old. I believe they be preyed on and they just don't get reported. Some of these men be preying on these young girls and they just don't get reported. Okay? Because ain't no way, 14-year-old and a 14-year-old, most of the time it ain't two 14-year-olds that's getting pregnant. It's usually a 14-year-old girl or whatever, underage girl, and then an adult male. Wow.
In an undercover operation, so the subject is not alerted to what's going on? Do they adopt certain language or slang or terms of younger people? I mean, how do you make it real for the suspect? Because if someone says I'm 14 and continues the conversation, I wonder if people are like, this seems awfully suspicious. Why are they telling my age? Why do they? What do you do? What's that? How do those conversations happen?
That is an amazing question, because none of these cases would be what they are without chatters. They are the key to the investigation. That means you take police officers and detectives who are moms and dads and people who have families, and they go into this dark, deep hole and they communicate with these predators enough that those predators think that's a real 14-year-old. That's how good they have to be. And that means the language, that means the trends that are happening, and really what's happening, not only just in those communications, but also what's happening in social media. Because a lot of these predators will throw out test baits. They'll throw out a question or some kind of an abbreviation. If you're not up to that, then they're going to call you out. That's how good these chatters are. And they have to be that good. Otherwise, you're going to lose this case.
By the way, have you had a situation or seen a situation where the suspect says to the undercover officer, "Are you a cop?" What happens then?
Yeah, and it's fair to say no. They say that all the time. Are you the police? And then our response is, no, are you the police? And then it goes past. This is no different than working undercover narcotics.
Right.
When I was in drugs, we don't tell the person that we're buying or selling, hey, by the way, I'm the police. That's why it's undercover. There's no expectation that we need to disclose who we are in these kind of cases. Supreme Court has upheld that. That's why when they ask, no, are you a cop? And then you just continue on.
By the way, you know why we're able to bring you stories like this and stay on top of the stories that we cover? It's not only because of the amazing support.
He gonna do his advertisement. But the thing is, I believe people just don't tell on other people. Or other men just don't tell on other men. Because a lot of men think it's okay. She has a skirt on, she has a short skirt, she's doing X, Y, and Z. So it's okay. It's okay to prey on somebody that age. And they think it's okay. She's 15, 16, whatever. And I'm 25, 26. No, that's not okay. But I believe it's somewhat okay in even some parents know. Yeah, even some parents know. That's the bad part about it. But you can't stop it, unless it's like a situation like this one. But the regular neighborhood Joe Blow walking around the neighborhood, people don't tell on him. And he 23, 24. Don't nobody say nothing to him. And he dealing with Sally, who be on the other side, who be on down the street.
UC says that she and this
she's young.
Suspect kept messaging for weeks, with him often sending very vulgar messages, saying things like he had a daddy-daughter kink. Chris, can we stop right there?
Please don't tell me that this man is married. Please don't say that he's married, because that's even worse.
I don't know what you call it, kink culture, things that might be considered taboo. You see it more and more online?
We do. And that's where those dangerous algorithms come through. Social media has algorithms that when there's any kind of an interest or a fetish, they get fed that. And it just continues to throw out that dopamine dump. And they want to take that fantasy and act it out.
See, thank goodness I ain't never hit one of those algorithms that he talking about. I wouldn't even begin. I guess it might begin if you start searching for that type stuff. I guess if you search for it, it'll start to come up. But thank goodness I ain't never hit one of those words.
Out in real life. The concern that I have is the suspect, does he have real kids at home? And if this is our case, we would absolutely interview all those kids. Many times, Jesse, we have folks that drop off their kids the same age of which they're coming to meet. And that's because they're just trying to change the face and the name.
Now, according to this incident report, the suspect texted this UC on March 29th to check Instagram, where he apparently sent a photo, you guessed it, of his genitals. He allegedly sent another photo of his genitals 2 days later on March 31st. And then
I'm just wondering, why would you think as a grown man that a kid would actually be interested in doing anything with a person that's way out of their age range? And what would make you think that would be a thing?
Then 2 days after that, April 2nd, the suspect called the undercover officer through Instagram, showing him performing a sex act on himself. Now, the UC says that Justin introduced the idea of him driving from his home in Mesa to Tucson to have sex with, again, who he thought was a 14-year-old. That's a distance of more than 100 miles.
Right.
From the report, quote, "We agreed for him to drive to Tucson on Thursday, April 3rd, 2025, to pick me up from school around lunchtime. We planned on going to my house where we would engage in the sex acts while my mother was at work." So
I wonder whether he had a wife and he had children. He's not that old, but that don't mean you don't have no family.
Suspect advised he would bring condoms. All right, Chris, if this undercover officer agent were the one to bring up the idea of meeting in person, would that be what a lot of people may consider to be entrapment? If they introduced the idea first, is that not valid?
So let's back up, because entrapment is a defense that many times is used. Entrapment is putting bait out there specific to catching somebody. But if you put the bait out there like we do online and they come to you, that's no longer entrapment. Now the conversation goes to, well, what do you want? And now it's undercover. So if somebody says, yeah, I'm looking for some, sex, If that comes from the suspect, then you just continue to walk down that path. There's a lot of defense attorneys that'll try to use that as entrapment, but they're already in the cage. They're already communicating. The age is already out there. These are the elements of the crimes that we have to put out there. So the entrapment defense on this particular case, in my opinion, is not a defense.
How quickly does it escalate to meeting? How often does that happen in these operations?
Well, it depends on how diabolical these predators are. This, many times we've said before, is not the first time they got. This is the first time they got caught.
Right.
And when you look at people that have gone down this trail for a number of weeks, months, years, they're very comfortable. And you can tell that in the conversation. There's some predators that we arrest within the first 4 or 5 minutes of them being on the line, and then boom, they're coming right to the location.
That's got to be wild. That's got to be the weirdest shit ever. You are so obsessed with meeting somebody that's beyond your age that you would do it just without any kind of protection, without protecting yourself, without doing any kind of background or anything. You ready to go out there and meet that person, that young person. That means you're obsessed with something. You got a screw loose somewhere. Something is wrong.
There's, like in this case, take weeks and weeks. So it is not uncommon. A lot of it is part of the fantasy. You know, our chatters will chat 100, 150 people a night when they're doing these operations, and 3 people show up. These other ones that, you know, are chatting, many times they're just building up that courage, or they just want to go down that path but not act out. But it's the ones who actually know what they're doing. They have time to disengage. They don't disengage. They set up this event where they're going to pick them up from school. They're going to be there when the parents aren't there. They know what they're going to do. They are so, I go back to the word premeditate. They're so committed that if law enforcement wasn't there, this act would have taken place on a 14-year-old by a grown man.
Well, true to his word, Justin Chrisman, what did he do? He apparently drove from Mesa to Tucson, texted the UC updates all along the way. The UC apparently directed him to the parking lot of Amy's Donuts, where he eventually parks, gets out of his truck, and that is when the SWAT team moved in.
Police, stop, bro, from the door. Get down, get down, get down. Get on the ground, now.
He didn't even get good out of the car because they didn't want him to run. They didn't want him to think. They just wanted to get him right then. And that would be the best way.
On the ground. Put your hands out. Do not move.
Okay, so you might be asking, why SWAT, right? Was it really that serious? Was it necessary? Well, I will tell you, a supplemental report explains why police did it that way. A member of the department's Special Response Division wrote, quote, Chrisman had dozens of arrests for DV and DOC, meaning domestic violence and disorderly conduct, over his lifetime. Social media videos as of 2023 showed him shooting a handgun at a range. SWAT was approved to assist. Now, a second SWAT member wrote in his report, I exited our vehicle and made announcements identifying myself as police and directing Justin not to run and to get down. Justin stood still and did not comply with my commands as I approached him. Another officer deployed a light and sound distraction device, and Justin began to turn away and move his hands toward his waist area. I pushed Justin in his right shoulder, and he complied with my direction to get on the ground. And the officer noted that he was easily identifiable as a SWAT team member, right? He was wearing his uniform with a ballistics helmet, police patches, all on him. The officer...
The sexual desire overrides any kind of sense of morality or legality. It overrides everything. So if it overrides everything, your own body is betraying you. Why you don't know? You grew up in the same society we grew up in. You know that it's something morally wrong with you messing with a child.
Explained his show of force by stating, I pointed my rifle at Justin due to the serious nature of the charges, the fact that there is a historically high level of violence resistance from suspects facing child sex-related charges, and my knowledge that Justin had been armed in the past and demonstrated proficiency with his handgun. So, Chris, I go to you. It seems like it was necessary here.
Right.
Absolutely. That's good police work, because not only do you want to make an arrest that is safe, but all the people around. They met in a public place. They met at a donut shop where people are not expecting any kind of illegal, let alone dangerous behavior. And if you look in that video, you had canines, you had SWAT members, you had that flashbang I was talking about. All of it is to distract and to make a safe arrest.
I want to experience a flashbang. Anybody experience a flashbang? I want to experience a flashbang. What's a flashbang?
They did their investigation to find out this guy's got history of domestic violence, disorderly conduct. He's a big dude. You didn't know what he had on him. That is what you have to do, because if things are not planned like that and they do go sideways, the first question that people are going to ask is, well, why didn't you take better precautions? So it's better to take all the precautions and have a safe arrest than wish you had and people get injured. That was done right.
You know what I thought was interesting is they say when
It almost looked like that shit they had on, and they went through the apartment complex up in where they went up in and got them kids out and put them in zip ties. Almost looked like the stuff they was wearing when they went up in their house.
dealing with people who are being arrested for child sexual related charges, there's a history of violent resistance. They've seen it before. I guess it's different if you're trying to arrest somebody for tax evasion or something like that. But I guess the point is, have you seen that? Is that true? People who are accused of, you know, very serious, very humiliating, the accusation in of itself, they may never recover from. Do you see that? Do you see more violent resistance in these kinds of cases?
I think it's better said that we see a number of emotional responses, from completely passing out, defecating on themselves, stiffening up, resisting, immediate crying, immediate denial, trying to run. There's no other arrest that we do that shows this array of emotional response. Yes.
By the way, people might be saying, okay, how do you know you have the right guy? Well, according to the incident report, an officer called the cell phone number that was associated with the Justin profile, and Chrisman's black iPhone began to ring.
You one of those. You one of the PDF files. You one of those. So we get to the real goofy. The one, but this is not really a goofy because you really can't tell what's going on with this one. You really can't tell because this is just a very recent. This is just recently happened. So we're gonna put this on the screen. This is our guy.
Known for his hulking muscles, his training regimen, his caring spirit, somebody who was loved. He was stabbed over and over and over again. And apparently this attack started while he was sleeping. And despite his efforts to crawl away from the frenzied attack, he was found dead. Police say it was his own wife who was the one holding the knife. And as new details come out about possible motives and what she was allegedly doing beforehand, we try to make sense of this entire situation with forensic psychiatrist Dr. Daniel Bober. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. 41-year-old Walter de Vargas Aita was a champion bodybuilder from the city of Chapecó in Brazil. According to reporting from Universo Online and the New York Post, he represented his country in bodybuilding competitions around the world. He was a 5-time state champion. He was even at one time a World Fitness Federation runner-up. He worked as a personal trainer. He shared his workout routines online and in person, but everything came crashing down in early September, because that is when Brazilian police say Walter was stabbed nearly 24 times, and the attack started while he was in bed asleep. During a news conference, police released new details about the suspect. That suspect? Walter's wife, Andrea Carvalho Aita. And you will not believe what she is accused of doing in the lead up to Walter's death. So the two apparently got married in 2021. This is according to Universo Online. But they apparently had a rough, tumultuous relationship. Santa Catarina Civil Police say that Carvalho...
See, that's why I don't understand how people get... You get into a relationship and the relationship becomes violent, or the relationship becomes toxic, or the relationship becomes unbearable. And yet you stay. You stay, or you go even further into the relationship and you marry the person, knowing full well you don't like people going upside your head. I don't like people going upside my head. So I wouldn't marry nobody that had went upside my head before I got married to them. They don't have to go upside my head one good time. That's all it takes, one good time. That's all. I'm going to vamp on your ass. I'm going to get right away from you. But yet and still we have millions and millions of people who get married, stay in relationships, and they getting their ass whooped. Was she getting her ass whooped, or was he getting his ass whooped? That's the question. We don't know.
Aita was convinced that Walter was having an affair. although it's unclear if he actually had been unfaithful in the relationship or she just suspected this. However, a friend of Walter's, identified as Camille, told outlet ND Mais that she was surprised when the news came out about Walter's death, not only because of the heinous crime, but because he had apparently said he was single. Now, police say that on
Wait a minute, is that the way a body is supposed to look? Is that the way the body is supposed to look?
September 7th, Walter was sleeping inside that apartment that he shared with his wife when she allegedly started stabbing him repeatedly with a large knife, according to the New York Post and Globo. During their news conference, police revealed that neighbors had heard cries for help, with one person claiming they heard him yell, "My God, why are you doing this?" This is per reporting from ND Mais.
Okay.
Now, Universal Online reports that at least one neighbor had claimed that she saw Walter stumbling out of his unit into the hallway, apparently naked and bloody, and saw this through a peephole. According to the New York Post and ND Mais, investigators say that Walter was stabbed 21 times, and that he had apparent injuries to his face, his head, his neck, arms, legs, chest, abdomen. When he got out of bed to try to get away, the New York Post has reported that police believe his wife followed him, continuing to strike him, with a massive trail of blood leading out into the hall. Walter was found dead in a stairwell near the entrance to the building. This is according to multiple Brazilian news outlets.
Oh, wow.
Now, as for his wife, Carvalho Aita, she was taken to a hospital for her own injuries, some cuts on her fingers, head, left arm. This is according to the Court of Justice of Santa Catarina. And when she was released is when she was arrested.
Now, my thing is, they didn't arrest her in the hospital. Okay, fine. They had to do their little investigation. Here's my thing. What did the man do? What did the man do that would put you on the path to putting him in meeting his maker like that? What did the man do? He apparently was sleeping. He wasn't no dangerous threat to you while he was sleeping. So why would you attack him in his sleep? And he had no defense. So you're going to find out what was going on with these people.
A brutal situation. So I want to get insight into this. And I want to welcome back onto the program forensic psychiatrist, Dr. Daniel Bober. Dr. Bober, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. We're going to get into some of the details of what she's accused of doing. But
Right.
if she really did do this, or just generally speaking, the brutal nature of this attack,
Right.
what does that tell you psychologically about what might be going on here?
Right.
Well, it's a familiar story, Jesse. We think about things like O.J. Simpson, Jodi Arias. We have a familiar cycle, right? Suspicion and insecurity, which leads to this obsessive surveillance and control. And then finally, threats and intimidation. If I ever see you with anyone, if you ever betray me, escalation, planning, obtaining a weapon, preoccupation, and then finally lethal violence. So this is a very, unfortunately, common story in society that we see of.
He said it's a common story. It's a common story that this happens. But what made her, do the stalking, get a weapon, do all of these things? What was the switch that got flipped? We don't know what the switch was. That's the thing.
Pathological jealousy. Now, you brought up an interesting point, which is, did he actually commit infidelity? Well, it turns out that's not critical for the diagnosis. Usually the diagnosis is associated with a delusional disorder, but anytime the focus is irrational, excessive, disproportionate, extreme.
Okay, so now they're trying to say she on that goofy bandwagon. But why is she on the goofy bandwagon? I mean, was she on that goofy trail before that night? Did she kill her? Or did something snap inside her head? Let's see.
It moves over from jealousy, which is an appropriate reaction if you believe your partner is committing infidelity. Then it becomes pathological. It's irrational, it's excessive, it's disproportionate, and results in extreme behavior, as in this case.
That's interesting if you're talking about what she believed. So assuming she did this, if you had the opportunity to interview her, what kind of questions would you ask? What would you want to know from her?
I would want to know, one, does she have a history of mental illness? I would want to know.
Which is what I said. Did this manifest itself before this happened, or did she always have a cougar bird?
No, is she using substances? I would want to know what her evidence is for why he's been unfaithful, I would want to challenge her. I'd want to see if there was an alternative explanation that she would be willing to entertain. Those are some of the things I would talk to her about.
By the way, I don't think I've asked you this before, but your role in, let's say, a criminal investigation, have you ever seen a situation where somebody may not open up or confess to authorities, but during the course of an interview, they may admit to the crime?
Yeah, and I think that goes just back to not necessarily your qualifications, whether you're a psychiatrist or a police officer. A lot of times that has to do with...
I mean, he keeps bringing up psychiatrists. He keeps bringing up the mental illness factor. So I'm assuming that maybe she was a little out of it when they arrested her, or she was showing signs of being on the cuckoo train when they arrested her. And I keep saying cuckoo train because I'm unlearned about what medical terminology and all that stuff for people who got a mental break or whatever.
Building rapport, trust, making them feel like they're being validated. I think they're much more likely to open up to you in those circumstances.
Right.
Let me talk about the evidence in this case so far. So I want to talk about some of the digital evidence that the civil police uncovered. According to Universal Online, investigators apparently found messages between the couple in which this wife had threatened to kill her husband, even including knife emojis in some of the texts. MD Mais reports that there were also audio recordings where she reportedly said that Walter would, quote, pay for what he was doing to her. She had also allegedly sent photos of Walter, of him sleeping, so reinforcing that he was constantly being watched.
She sent photos to him, telling him he was being watched. This is wild. This is wild. She sent him photos of himself sleeping. We should have told him that there was something going on with her, because that's not normal, not at all. Somebody sending you pictures of you sleeping.
Civil police also alleged that she had drilled holes in the walls of the apartment to watch him, to see what he was up to. Dr. Bober, if that is true, and we talk about escalating behavior that, allegedly ended with this brutal attack,
right?
What does that tell you?
So again, we have obsessive surveillance and rumination. We have possessiveness and fear of abandonment, which is often a sign of deep-seated insecurity. And very often, the more intense the attachment, the more aggressive the reaction.
So my thing is, have you looked at it and said, well, maybe she had a psychotic break. Maybe she had these problems before. If she had these problems before, he was living with this. He must have been living with this. Well, he was living with this craziness anyway. So
in these types of relationships, and we've heard about them probably even through friends of ours that are very intense, they often tend to be very unstable. And those are the ones that have the unfortunate tendency to result in violence. So we have this threat control cycle where it starts off with anxiety, these betrayal fantasies, and then finally it goes from anxiety and insecurity to threats of punishment. And you have these pre-homicidal warning signs, like the letter that he wrote that said, if anything were to happen to me, this is the person who did it.
By the way, you know why we're able to bring you stories like this? Not only because of...
Wait a minute, when you get to that point, when you get to the point where you writing letters to family and friends, and saying, if something happened, then this person did it. When you able to write letters like that to family and friends, you should know right off the bat. You should know right then that this person is unhinged, and you should get away from them. But 1 in 5 adults got mental illness, experience some kind of mental illness. Okay, so and there's a lot of couples that are married to people that are mentally ill, but I didn't know it was that many people. Have depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia. Got all kinds of wild shit going on. Okay. And that kind of shit stresses a relationship out. And so he was like, oh shit. No. You got to get away from people like this immediately.
By clicking the link below or scanning the QR code on screen.
Immediately. You can't be dealing with that.
By the way, she also allegedly communicated with some sort of artificial intelligence, some AI, relaying the problems with her marriage to some sort of chat bot. So Basia Noticias reports that message logs obtained by police show her talking to this bot about her symptoms of depression and feelings of frustration and suspicions that her husband was cheating on her. You know, Dr.
A lot of people, when they depressed or you know, having depression and things like that, the whole world is caving in on them. They usually have a problem with maybe offing themselves. But apparently she took him out of there, but that wasn't the object of her depression.
Bober, we've talked before here on Sidebar about AI and how people feel comfortable to ask this chatbot questions and relay personal information, almost like it's a friend. Are you surprised to hear this?
I'm not in this day and age, and it's very concerning to me. I keep telling people all the time, AI is not your friend. AI is not your therapist. AI doesn't act with intention because AI is simply a language prediction model. It is designed for reinforcement, social engagement, and to keep the conversation going. So if you're relying on AI for advice, you're making a huge mistake.
And it's
Yeah, you can rely on AI for facts and data. You should be able to rely on it for facts and data. It'll come up with facts and data. But if you ask it for the opinion, or you ask why this happened or why that happened, you shouldn't be doing that. Or relationship advice.
obviously can be incriminating evidence, right? I think that's coming up more and more, that what you put in there, it's similar to Google searches that can come back in a criminal case and really hurt someone. Now, despite Valter's extensive injuries, the civil police said that this woman admitted to stabbing him. However, she says it was only 3 times. This is according to the New York Post. She claims she was acting in self-defense. She claims that he had the knife first, but she was able to get it away from him. I will tell you, authorities weren't buying it. And let me ask you, Dr. Bober, about that. Self-defense cases, domestic violence cases, wouldn't be the first time that we've seen those. What would you be looking out for to see if this was or was not a legitimate case of self-defense?
Well, listen, I don't buy it either. You have to look at the physical evidence. You have to look at the fact that there seemed to be a lead up to all this, a crescendo, if you will. And that doesn't necessarily prove it definitively. But again, at least in the United States, we're talking about beyond a reasonable doubt. So certainly a defense team would try to present an alternative theory. But given the obsessiveness, drilling holes in the wall and
given the way she given the way she done went nuts on him, of course, Ty, of course. Given the way she done went nuts on him, of course, they got to look at all aspects. Drilling holes in the wall. Who does that? Holes in the wall to watch somebody. That's some kind of conspiratorial thing, and it's inside her head, which means there's some mental, maybe a goofy thing going on, some mental illness going on.
Watching him, sending the text messages with the knife emojis, all this would be highly, highly difficult to overcome.
I want to talk about that letter that you mentioned before, because it seems that Valter was aware that his wife could cause him great harm. The Post report.
Yes, he was aware, but he thought he was a big enough guy that he could deal with it. A big enough guy that he could deal with it. So this is what happened. Okay.
That he told her he planned to write a letter explaining that if he were to be found dead, it was his wife who did it. I will say, apparently police couldn't find any such letter. But if that's true, and you're talking about somebody who has a...
You got to make sure you do it 24 hours in advance. Try to go, you've already got the permission for it, Ty, right? Permission to go live, right? Okay.
Recognition of what would happen to them. What does that tell you? And B, no, I'm not placing any blame. I'm not placing any blame.
Now, you can't blame him. He was in a relationship with this woman. Why they don't get... why they don't ask for help or anything. There's plenty of reasons. But let's see.
Is it difficult for someone to separate themselves from a relationship like that, particularly if they're married, right?
Crossover,
what does that tell you?
That this was a very intense, unstable relationship. Now, what were the reasons that were motivating her? Was she someone who had a legitimate mental illness, for example, psychosis? Was she someone who had paranoid traits where she was suspicious and hostile?
And they would wonder whether she had already had these problems before this came along. Did she have mental illness before this came along? Were there problems in the past? How long has she been threatening him, watching him, being suspicious of him?
Is this behavior that she displayed in other relationships prior to this one? This is something I would want to look into, talking to other people that knew her before, or what we call borderline traits.
Right.
Again, emotional instability, fear of abandonment, this so-called black and white thinking, acting impulsively, going from idealization to devaluation. These are all what we call borderline traits, and they tend to be very intense,
Right.
unstable, labile type relationships.
Is there any way to reason with somebody like this? Again, assuming all this is true, if you're in a position where your counterpart...
It could be paranoid schizophrenia. It could be all kinds of things. They just haven't released whether she is that or not.
Is this woman? How do you reason with somebody like that?
I mean, I think it's someone who needs professional help, but there are types of therapy. For example, if it's borderline personality disorder, called dialectical behavioral therapy, or DBT, that can help with someone like this. Obviously medication, but it's probably something that she came into the relationship with, and her partner may not have known how to deal with it. She could have gotten professional help, but unfortunately it didn't happen.
Now,
Okay, so he thinks she came in a relationship with it. So he think that she had it when she got involved with this man. Because I don't think they really said how long they had been involved. But why is it that these people don't get help? If you're in a relationship and your person is off and whatnot, and you just don't know what it is, why don't you? And some people self-medicate. Some people medicate with pills and drink and alcohol and all that stuff. So if people come in a relationship with these things, why don't you get help for your person? What's the reasons why you can't or won't get help for your person? I think it's a lack of denial. You're scared. Maybe you financially twisted up into this thing. It's just many issues. There's many reasons why. Stigma. Many people hide mental illness, so you probably would never have known if you got involved with her and she thought it was under control. So by the time you got involved with her, it was all over. And then when you married to him or whatever, you fear treatment could get you thrown out, get the family broken up, trust, all kinds of things. And voluntary committing a person anyway in the United States, it requires proof that the person is a danger to themselves or others, or they're unable to care for themselves on a basic level. So apparently she was able to care for herself. She was living with him. Okay. Merely being mentally ill doesn't get you locked up. Okay. It just don't get you locked up. But most people deny that this person has something going on. And most people don't know how to recognize mental illness. So
I will say, in a shocking twist, okay, this apparently is not the first time that this woman, Andrea Carvalho Aita, has been accused of a very serious crime. Local reporting says she was actually convicted of attempted robbery with violence and was given an 18-year prison sentence. She apparently appealed that conviction. It was upheld in 2023. The prison length was reduced, though, to 15 years. But by the time the appeals process wrapped up, authorities couldn't find her. She had an active arrest warrant when she was taken into custody for Walter's murder. And according to ND Maes, if she is convicted, she now faces 12 to 30 years in prison, and it seems on top of the 15 that she was supposed to be serving for the robbery conviction. That adds a whole other layer there, Dr. Bober, doesn't it?
Wait a minute. Whoa. How is she out of jail and she did a robbery and they gave her 12 years for robbery? How's she out of jail on an appeal? So you get to get out of jail on an appeal? They let you out of jail on a appeal, and she was out on a appeal. Still got 15 years to run. She got that jacket, 15-year jacket for robbery. Now she got this for murder. She was doing some bullshit prior. All on some mentally ill-ish.
It does, that now we're talking about someone who slipped through the cracks of law enforcement, and that brings, as you said, a whole other element to it. Is this someone with antisocial traits, someone who routinely violates the rights of others, who manipulates people, who acts without remorse, who's cold, who's cunning, who's methodical? So it does add a new element into it.
Now, Walter's mother spoke with ND Maes, saying that this woman, Carvalho Aita, had said she had to marry her son. She had to marry Walter. and threatened to kill him. She remembered her son as a caring man, saying, quote, "We set up a gym at home so he could work and devote himself to bodybuilding. He was a simple, kind-hearted boy." Doctor, it's never lost on us the family and the friends that are left behind after an alleged murder, right? What does that family, what does this mother, what does loss look like for them, and what's their journey going to be?
Well, I think it's not only loss, but it's loss in this horrific way, and it's something that they will have to live with for the rest of their lives.
So you can't tell me she didn't act up at some particular point throughout the relationship or whatever. Yeah, he's your son. How could you? Yeah. These people wild up in here. It's just, she just said, fuck it, you gonna marry her. You gonna marry her. She could be crazy all she want. He a kind-hearted boy.
And I've said it before, grief is a process. Loss is a process. It's not something that you ever forget. It's something that you learn to live with. And it becomes a new normal for the family. And hopefully there are other things in their lives where they can find joy in, because this is obviously horrific.
This legal process that unfolds, does it only complicate it for them? Does it only make it worse? Does it amplify these feelings?
You hear this from the families of victims all the time, right? Leading up to a trial, which sometimes can take years. They never find peace until there's justice, until everything is resolved. They have a lot of trouble moving on with their lives. And as I said before, it never really goes back to the way it was, but it's certainly easier when this process is no longer playing out.
By the way, I'm not entirely familiar with the law in Brazil regarding a mental health defense, but assuming this happened in the States, based on this limited set of facts that we have laid out, the allegations that we have laid out, is there a potential mental health defense that you would be looking out for here?
Right.
I guess, a defense attorney might turn to an expert like me and try to say that she had some kind of extreme emotional reaction. But the problem for them is going to be all the lead up that occurred to this, the text messages, the threats, the surveillance. It all makes it seem pretty pre-planned, pretty premeditated. One of the things they could say is that she was suffering from some form of psychosis and she was delusional and she had false beliefs. But it's going to be a very uphill climb for a defense strategy using an insanity defense.
I agree. Dr. Daniel Bober, thanks so much for taking the time.
Thanks.
So he got broke off by his woman. She failed at grooming her own son. That's why she had to threaten his life. She was a very weird. That's crazy as hell. Here's the thing. We give you the tools, right? The most important lesson that you take out of this is, well, you already know the lesson for the PDF file. PDF file, stay out of young kids' faces. That's the warning I can give you, because people might be hiding in the bush with cameras to get you. So stay out of kids' faces and stop doing that kind of weird shit. But if you find yourself married to a person like this woman, married to a person that you don't, I wonder if he knew her past. Did he know her past? Was she mentally ill before they got together? Did some kind of psychotic break happen? Okay. More importantly, if you find yourself married or in a relationship, okay, it's a new avoid scrutiny tactic like racism and shut up. Okay, what do you do if you find yourself married to a person like this? That's a wild and heavy question, right? And a lot of people face being married to people, who have these issues, okay? When it's untreated, severe mental illness can leave you on pins and needles. See, I would worry about waking up in the middle of the night and somebody standing over my bed. That's what I would be worried about. I mean, that's just me, right? Because I would be exhausted all the time. I'd live in fear all the time. I just could not do it because it would just have me in a heightened state all the time. And realistically, there's a couple things that you need to do. You need to understand what the fuck you're dealing with. When you're married to somebody like a person that's erratic behavior, erratic, aggressive behavior towards you, all kinds of things, you need to know what you're dealing with. Okay, you need to know that. You try to observe the patterns, figure out the patterns, what makes the person react, what makes the person have swing. Write down those behaviors, episodes, whatever, threats. He had text messages in which she threatened him. Especially those kind of things you should keep track of. The violence or the neglect. Look for the triggers, cycles, manic depression, swings, paranoias, all those kind of things. Substance abuse, withdrawal. As I said, a lot of people self-medicate with alcohol and drugs. This will help you later if you want to commit them or have them committed in some way, shape, or form. I don't know how hard that is to get somebody committed, but I do know if they are harm to yourself, because that dude that was on the train who stabbed that young girl in the neck a couple times, he should have been committed. But what the hell happened? Okay. But you gotta, and two, by all means, if you don't have no kids by this kind of person that's dramatic, back and forth, acting the fool all the time, don't have no kids by this person. Is it only racing when y'all got the white hoods on? Are you wearing the ankle monitor? Is who wearing the ankle monitor? Oh, you ain't talking to me. I'm sure you're not. Okay, number two, protect yourself first. If there's any kind of threat, aggression, it don't matter whether they got mental illness or not. When a person threatens your life in any way, shape, or form, you should have a plan to get up out of there. Pronto. Okay. You know, you won't even, that's right, white man. 2 years later, you wouldn't even remember what they look like. Okay. If there's a threat or any kind of aggression, make a safety plan. Have a trusted friend or family member that you can stay with. Have some place you can go where they wouldn't know where you were at. You got a person at work that you friends with at work, but your spouse don't know. That's a person that can help protect you. Make sure you have an emergency bag somewhere where you can get it. Know you have the local crisis lines and all that good stuff. And, you know, it's always good for people to have their own money. It just is what it is. People, men be like, you don't need no on your money. Yes. Men need their own money too, just in case this happens. Okay. Just in case this happened. Okay. I had racist of color judge released him because he was that same color. Are you crazy, white man? Are you crazy? Okay. So this is the third thing you can do. Get outside support for you. Contact a therapist or NAMI, family group, support group, specialize in helping abusive spouses. Okay, who deal with people who have mental illness. They'll help you separate what's their illness from what's become your burden or your problem. Okay. This step isn't about abandoning the spouse, okay? The local church too. It's about stabilizing yourself. You got to stabilize yourself as soon as possible. And I really would think something would be, I would really question your judgment if you had children in the relationship and you didn't protect those children first. That's just me. I'm willing to do whatever I got to do in order to protect the kids, because the kids can't protect themselves. Okay. So encourage them to commit themselves, but don't force the treatment unless there's some kind of danger. Right now it's crime. It's crime. Okay. You can offer help, but you can't make them want to take it. If they refuse to help and you believe you're in danger or the children are in danger, you need to start the evaluation process. Yeah, I used to work at shelters and jails. I used to do all of those kind of things. Yes, that was the career that I chose: working in shelters, working in prisons, those kind of things. Okay. So if they refuse to help and you believe you're in danger, start making a plan, putting stuff together. And it all depends on your state laws too, because you can't just you just can't commit somebody. You got to have things in place before you can commit them, right? And there are emergency holds if a person is severely psychotic, suicidal, or violent. It is, okay? But you got to know what the procedures are in your state in order to get away. Okay. And a lot of people don't have a lot of money, don't have a lot of money, but you gotta figure out, once you figure out that you are married to, or you're married or in a relationship with a person that may harm you in any way, or are harming you in any way, you got to make an escape plan somehow, somewhere. Be prepared to make some very hard decisions. If things don't improve in those relationships, you may need to decide between staying in the chaos or leaving for your own mental health. Me, I'm up, out. First time you do something crazy or say something crazy, I'm up and out the minute you do something crazy and say something crazy. Okay? Separation or divorce doesn't mean you stop caring about the person. That's for sure. It can be the healthiest thing that you can do for yourself and the children, is to be able to get yourself away from them and commit them, because that may take time. It may take time and burden off of you. And that's the healthiest thing for them. So that's the best thing that you could possibly do for them. And the number one thing I tell people, or I used to tell people, is don't try to fix nobody. Don't try to fix nobody. Don't try to force nobody into doing what you want them to do. Don't try to force nobody into accepting bad behavior or dealing with people on that level. Don't try to force them. Okay? Because you don't want to deal with that at all. Because people gonna do what they want to do. I didn't get no likes. Why I ain't got no likes in the chat? What's going on? I need some likes from you guys. I need some likes. Hit the like button. Hit the like button. Share button. Subscribe if you can. We have all kinds of things going on here. Not necessarily racial things. It could be any number of things that we have going on here every day. Okay? Every day. So my thing is, please like and subscribe and do all those good things, right? So, what was I saying? I was saying you cannot change another person. Okay? You cannot make them take their medication. You cannot. When somebody continuously believes that you're cheating, you're doing something out of the ordinary, X, Y, and Z, you have to stand back. And you can't keep denying everything, okay? Mental illness requires consistent professional help, treatment. This young lady right here, she offed her husband. She offed him, but she already had a record prior to that, okay? She had a record prior to that from robbing a bank. How do you explain that kind of shit? How do you explain that kind of past? And I get it. Every person deserves to be in relationships. I get that. Most people deserve to be in a relationship. I get that. But how do you explain to somebody that I'm facing 15? How do you marry a person knowing that you are facing 15 years? And you don't tell them that you're facing 15 years. Okay? Because there's no way that man should have married, or maybe the mama had something to do with it. He should never have married her if she was facing 15 years. What is he? Is he about 5 foot? Is the man 4'1" or some shit? And we can't see it? Because he had other options, I'm sure. If he can walk upright and shave his fucking back, and he can shave his fucking back and his ankles and shit, he got options. So why did he marry such a woman? Okay. I'm saying to you, your role in these kind of relationships is to encourage them to get help, protect yourself, and don't be destroyed by this mental illness. Okay. And that's a lot of people's problem. They don't understand. It's your responsibility to make you happy. It's not your responsibility to make somebody else happy. and to the detriment of the other people. Okay. Narcissists are always trying to cause their victims to question. Yeah, that is Big Chris. That's the freaking deal. Even people that don't have mental illness be trying you. They be trying you. Like I'm the crazy one. Like I'm the one. I don't see what you're doing. Like you trying to make me think I'm goofy. That's what I don't like. I don't like people trying to gaslight me. You trying to make me seem like I'm crazy. Okay. And that's the whole shit. That's the whole shebang. You know, being accountable, everybody can be accountable for their own thing. I'm going to be accountable for mine. The minute I find out, I hear something odd, I do something odd, and a lot of people, these white trolls are very, very narcissistic. I don't know. What's going on, white man from town? What in the hell is going on? I'm just trying to figure out why you come in here with the racial stuff. We wasn't even talking about the racial stuff. We were talking about this particular death of these two and this pedo. We weren't talking about none of that. You know, we can get into that. We can get into that on another day. Y'all always saying y'all don't want to talk about race. Y'all don't want to get involved with race. Y'all don't want to have a conversation about race. But the minute we ain't talking about race in any way, shape, or form, you walk in the door talking about race. That's not what we talking about today. Besides, Ty Pro racist as fuck. Ty Pro. He mad he's sleeping in a box next to Star using it. Ooh, y'all wild up in here. Y'all wild. But this is the presentation. This is the report I wanted to do today for crime and all that kind of stuff, because sometimes we need it. We need a break from the race stuff. We need a break from race stuff. We need a break sometime. Today was the break. Apparently it's not the break, but we're not going to have it. We're not even going to do it. I will be back at 7. Wait a minute. It'll probably be 8 o'clock. I'll be back at 8 o'clock for the Kevin Samuels information. For the Kevin Samuels, we're gonna have the 304 to the Housewife show. Okay, we're gonna have 304 to the Housewife show. I appreciate y'all. Where are my likes at? Where are my likes? I need you to hit the like button right now. Everybody hit the like button right now. I need you to hit the like button. I need you to share. I need you to subscribe. That'd be amazing, because I bring content like this every day. You lost your best leader. He wasn't my leader, white man. I'm a woman. That wasn't my leader. I didn't, it wasn't my leader. I don't have a leader. I stand 10 toes all on my own. No leader needed, honey. No leader needed. So I will have a conversation about him and his conversation with the ladies. Some of these things at 8 o'clock. It'll be 8 o'clock. So I appreciate y'all. Please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the share button. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I welcome all diverse content. I welcome all diverse views. And it ain't no racist view. Just a regular, ordinary view. Y'all not going to pull me into it. I'm not going to get pulled into racial shit. I'm not getting pulled into it. Today, we ain't doing no racial shit. So, I will see you guys at 8 o'clock. I will see you guys if you come back at 8 o'clock. If you don't, I appreciate the like. Please hit the like button. Please hit the like button. Share, subscribe, do all those good things. And I will see you at 8 o'clock. At 8 o'clock. Later for you guys. Later for you guys. Later.